Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. So in this video, I'd like to discuss is the XRP decline over. I would also like to show you a fulfilled prediction. So is this decline that has been taking place in XRP now come to a completion? Well, to answer that question, I'm going to show you several different fractals that I believe XRP has been following. So this first fractal is the primary fractal, the touchstone of where we are at in this larger structure that we are following. So that is this third fractal right here. Now, if you're not familiar with this macro structure, so XRP has a repetitive macro structure. It has its bull runs, which we see here and here. It has its declines, which we see here, here, and here. And then it has this sideways range-bound time that we see here, we see it here, we see it here. So this sideways range-bound time takes place after the decline and before the next bull run. I divide it into three separate fractals. We are currently in the third fractal. That is pretty cool, folks, because we're getting close to the bull run. So the first fractal, I divide into two parts, part A and part B. Part A moves up and moves down. Part B goes flat. We can see that took place over here with the move up and the move down and the part that went flat. Fractal 2 has three waves, wave A, wave B, and wave C. We see that over here, wave A, wave B, and wave C. We are now working on fractal 3. Fractal 3, in this iteration of it, there's other iterations that are slightly different, but the main idea is the same. The main idea is where price moves up to a peak, it then crashes, and after that crash, it recovers, does a small correction before going into the bull run. So in this iteration of it, we have roughly three kind of waves that bring it to a peak. So wave 1, wave 2, and wave 3. The third wave is the peak. So we have completed wave 1 over here. We are now working on wave 2. This original time, it did not go nearly as high as it did today, but that can happen when a fractal repeats due to the timing, height, and depth being original. Those parts of the fractal do not copy over while the structure does. So the structure can go higher the second time around or lower, or it can play out in a shorter amount of time or a longer amount of time. Look how long this took to play out versus how short of a time frame it is playing out in today's chart. This can also be nuanced. Some parts of the fractal can move up higher. Some parts of the fractal may not move up as high as it originally did. So while the overall structure repeats, the timing, height, and depth, they remain original. So if we were to take this wave right here and copy and paste it over here, let's examine that one. All right, so here is that fractal. So there is a possibility that this structure has not completed yet, and we are still moving down, and this downward trajectory will still go on. So as you can see, it has roughly been following it pretty closely here. However, here it looks like it's beginning to deviate, which lends weakness to this idea that this fractal is following this structure. Now, it could be a little different. It could be maybe a little like this, but that is a possibility. And then this is just continuing to move down. So I'm throwing this one out because I want to give you the full spectrum of possibilities. So there's that one. Now, if we were to take this same structure right here and just shrink it down, it would look something like this. So as you can see, this does look like a pretty close match. Of course, there is some deviations here and there, but for the most part, I would say this does look like a pretty close match. Now, if this is the bottom, what we would potentially be going into is something like this. So we would be moving into a sideways kind of range-bound time. This is potentially the bottom, but there could be some like little dips and quick move downs. So even right here, when this turns over, it could potentially dip lower than here. This is just a rough idea, a suggestion of how this may look. In reality, it may turn out to be slightly different in the same way that this is slightly different from the fractal that suggested that it was going to do this. Now, that is one potential possibility. I'm going to show you another fractal that I've been using as a guide for this entire structure over here, and it is pulled from recent history. It's been pulled from over here, which started in May 2022 and went to January 2023. So if we copy and paste this structure on today's chart, it would look something like this. So as you can see, it has been a fairly close match. Now here, this just went so much higher than this fractal suggested. But if we were to take this part right here and copy and paste it over here, what would that look like? Let's do that. So here is that structure copy and pasted onto this peak right here. And as you can see, it does follow it fairly well, even with this move up right here, this spike, and then this drop. Now this right here, I believe, is this, just on a much larger scale. So now this brings us into that prediction that I made. So here is that prediction using this same fractal. Okay, so here we are back on a small time frame, and here is my prediction. XRP is likely going to form a peak here very soon. It will then begin to decline, and it potentially could be range bound for a short time in this area before getting to this part right here, where it will potentially do something just like this. It moves up a little and then drops. Now, this drop may be less than it is shown here. It may be more. I don't know. It could also kind of wind its way down without doing much of a drop here, or it could just do a small drop. So it could do that. That's another option. It will eventually wind up doing something probably similar to this, where it's just another range-bound part right here before moving up into this next part right here. So as you can see, I believe that it has been fulfilled for the most part. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So here is that part where it went range bound for a short amount of time. This is where it moved up and then it declined, just as we see right here. This here, I believe, is a larger iteration of this right here. So this would lend weight to that idea that the decline is completed. So if it is completed, we would then move into that sideways range-bound time that comes next in this fractal, this part here. Now there is one other fractal that I'd like to show you, and this is also from its recent history, but it's from its very recent history. So this was taken from XRP's very recent history right here, and it has been adjusted to today's timing, height, and depth. While it's not a very clear picture, we do see the rough idea of this decline having been played out on today's chart, just at a larger scale. We even have this peak right here that coincides with this large move up. So to conclude, there is a small possibility that this fractal right here is playing out just at a larger scale. However, the majority of the fractals we are following are indicating that this decline part has now been completed. So if that is correct, XRP should be moving into this phase now, and this is the beginning of that third wave that brings it to a peak. This wave right here. So as of now, I'm going to assume that we have completed this decline unless convincing evidence begins to emerge that argues for this being a larger iteration of this declining structure. Well, I hope this video has been helpful. If you found it helpful, it'd be much appreciated if you hit that thumbs up button. We have some volatility that is going to come down the pike in this fractal. We're not there yet, but you should be prepared for that. The cool thing, though, is that we are getting near the bull run. If you enjoyed this video and you're not a subscriber yet, you should think about hitting that subscribe button. This is original TA. You're not going to find it anywhere else. I'll continue to follow this chart as it continues to develop. And one last important thing, I'm not a financial advisor, so none of this should be used as financial or investment advice. I'm so glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day. and bye for now.